former President Trump as a way of defying the laws of political gravity. As the former president campaigns in Iowa, he faces criminal charges in New York. He could face more charges from a range of ongoing and escalating criminal probes. And yet, he has grown his lead in the Republican presidential primary, with some of his supporters in Iowa telling NBC News today that even an indictment from the special counsel's office wouldn't dissuade them, not one bit.
The stuff we're seeing is so silly. I mean, this is child play. We go after him, we go to Mar-a-Lago and we get documents and so on. For God's sakes, he was the president. He has the right to take things and declassify it, so we make a big deal of it. And what do we find with our current president? I mean, I don't want to use that as an excuse, but everything they throw at him is the things they're guilty of. And you talk about his popularity, every time they go after him again, he just skyrockets.
There you go. I'm joined by my panel today. Eugene Daniels, White House correspondent for Politico, co-author of Playbook. He's also an NBC News political analyst, former Democratic Senator from Alabama, Doug Jones, and Sarah Longwell, the publisher of The Bulwark. Eugene, every morning when we have our morning meeting, all right, what are we going to lead with today? We sit there and it's like the DeSantis-Trump question like hangs over our heads every day. I bet you Sarah has a similar conversation with her team every day, and you do too, and it's the same question. Well, I think I know where this is headed, but how many indictments can Trump handle? And that's the question we just don't know, right? The straw that broke the camel's back is a cliche for a reason. Yeah. Is any of these indictments a straw?
Yeah, it's hard to know, right? And what you heard from that voter right there was them parroting exactly what Donald Trump has been saying. Things that aren't true about the Presidential Records Act, right? That he can just go and wave a wand and declassify things. He doesn't have to tell anybody. There's no documentation needed. That doesn't matter. That's not true. And so what it tells you is that it's so deep within the Republican base. He has such a handle on the folks that like him and have liked him for so long that it's hard to see how DeSantis or any of them are able to pull that away from them. When you heard them talking about how these indictments are child's play, whatever it was, like that is, for every Republican strategist, I would be nervous if I was them, because how do you get beyond that if they're not going to believe that these indictments are true? Because Republicans have spent a long time denigrating these same institutions that are now taking Donald Trump on.
Sarah, I was my podcast this week, I was talking about Dave Kochel, who's a longtime Republican operative in Iowa, and he's done a bunch of focus groups with Republican caucus goers, and he says, it's extraordinary, the excuses Trump supporters come up for Trump. And he says, you got to hand it to Trump. He's brilliant. He has fed them what you just said, Eugene. What that voter said is what Trump told him to say.
And here's the thing. So I do the focus groups all the time.
That's right.
Every
you guys do a
week,
ton of them.
Two-time Trump voters. And what they say about the indictments are it's political. And the reason it helps them is they also say it's because they're too scared of Trump. They're out to get him. The deep state wants to get him. And that, to them, is a testament to Trump's power. It's a testament to why he's the right one, because we wouldn't be so scared of him if he wasn't so dangerous to the establishment and to us. But I will say, I don't think the indictments are ever going to hurt him. And I think that might be the wrong question. I think the question is there another Republican, DeSantis, who has the political talent to make hay of it, to go through Trump? And right now, nobody has. You know, you can make these indictments work against Trump, but none of the other candidates are willing to do it because Trump has this crazy power of they come to his defense. And as long as these other candidates come to his defense, he's fine.
Doug, Brad Todd, who's a Republican operative, has this theory. He says the reason Trump supporters back him up all the time is he thinks everybody is trying to make 2016 an asterisk. That by, and these voters, they don't want to erase Trump. Maybe they'll move on from Trump, but acknowledge he mattered. Like there's this, hey, this mattered. Don't sit here and say this was an accident.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. But I think, Chuck, I think there's another element of this, too. I faced this in my 2017 race when those allegations about Roy Moore came out. People that supported him did not want to believe those allegations. How
could they? This is the man. He's so moral. Exactly. He tells us all the time.
And it's this. And there's a lot of that, I think, with Trump. When you indict Donald Trump, you're indicting his supporters in their mind. And so I think that breaking through to that is very difficult when you've got a very, very strong base of support. So, yeah, I think there's all of that that's in play here. And that's why I think that these guys are going to have a difficult time talking about the so-called character issue. It hadn't worked yet. And these people are seeing that as personal attacks because they were so invested in Donald Trump.
Human beings, we have a difficulty saying when we're wrong, right? And so by going to DeSantis or trying to wish away Donald Trump, these voters are going to have to say, I was wrong that time, or I've been tricked this entire time. And it's very hard for human beings to do that. So there's like a psychology to this.
I remember at post-Clinton impeachment, Sarah, when a lot of people had to be reminded, voters knew before Bill Clinton was elected that he had a wandering eye. And, oh, so you're impeaching him for that? We already knew that.
Right.
Voters knew who Donald Trump was when they elected him. And I think sometimes we don't fully appreciate that. Voters knew what they were getting.
It's all baked in.
Yeah, and
it's all baked in.
And so we're sitting there telling them, hey, he's all this. Well, you told us he was all this before.
I keep making this joke. Like, what is DeSantis's Oppo team gonna do? Like, how are they gonna spend their time? We know everything. We know all the bad. Are they gonna tell us he slept with a porn star?
He's trying every trick that Ted Cruz tried. He's not a real conservative.
Totally.
Right. My goodness, I used to have this mash we used to play. Rick Perry, he's a cancer on conservatism. And, you know, it's right down the line, all these people. It didn't matter.
It's also, DeSantis's whole strategy is the Ted Cruz strategy. It's like, I'm going to go after Trump's base. I'm going to hug him as hard as I can and then hope some exogenous event takes him out and then I'm the last man standing. It hasn't worked for anybody yet. And so I will say I have just seen lately a few signs of life from DeSantis where he is trying to go right at Trump. He's taking him on a little harder. And I think that's what he needs to do. Like, if you're going to be the man, you got to beat the man. You can't go around Trump. You got to go through him. And so the question again is, does Ron DeSantis have the political talent to do that effectively?
No, and that's what the beauty of presidential campaigns is, that it is, somebody said this to me, a Senate race or a governor's race can be won with tactics. A presidential race, the candidate matters.
Absolutely. And the fact is that the more people get into that primary process, I think it helps Donald Trump. Everybody says that. Everybody knows that. You're seeing Mike Pence. You're seeing Chris Christie looking at jumping in. The bigger that is, the more people that may try to attack him, the others that are going to defend him, he's going to sit back and say, fine, y'all duke it out.
The Chris Christie, I'm trying to think of another campaign where the candidate says, I'm only running to just get rid of that guy. You know, like Pat Buchanan ran in '92 to make a statement. He knew he wasn't going to win, but he wanted to make a statement. Arguably, Ron Paul ran to make a statement. Bernie Sanders, I think, the first time was more in making a statement. I don't know how a candidacy that is totally based on revenge works.
Yeah. His hope is to do what he did to Marco Rubio to Donald Trump.
Well, you got to get on the stage.
You have to get on the stage.
You have to get on the stage and hope you have that moment.
Exactly.
Why would Donald Trump hand him that moment?
He's not going to. And also, Donald Trump has made it clear he's not super interested in getting on the stage. In his eyes, he is, as he said over and over again, I'm the front runner. Why do I need to get on stage with the losers? Right? That is how he is thinking about this. And so if you're Chris Christie, your only chance is to knock him down in person. It can't be in a bunch of interviews. It can't be on stage talking to your supporters. It has to be one-on-one, or at least face-to-face with Donald Trump.
And Sarah, we know it's going to happen. There won't be a pile on Trump. There'll be somebody that angles and says, oh, no, and says, oh, I'll play fullback for Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah, which Chris Christie did last time.
Yes, he did.
And look, they won't be able to resist.
This time he's the nose tackle. He was the fullback last time. This time he's the nose
That's
tackle.
Right. And they're also not going to be able to resist the idea of, like, well, I need to be mano-a-mano with Trump. I need to be second, which means they're all going to be tempted to go after DeSantis, which is one of Trump's big structural advantages, is everyone's going to try to get to that #2 spot and hit DeSantis while ignoring him, and that's going to go on too long. Before you know it, it's all over.
All right, I'm not going to let this pass. None of you may care about this, but when your boy-heard baseball hero says he's going to run for the United States Senate, I want to throw it out there. Steve Garvey is thinking about running for California Senate. He's supposedly going to run more as a moderate Republican. I do think Doug Jones, he'd be better off running as an independent. A Republican can't win a statewide race in California.
Right.
But an independent might.
Maybe.
I'm doubtful of that, too.
Look, I am very doubtful of independent candidacies these days, whether it is in California, Alabama, or in nationally running for president.
I'm sure there's some people in Alabama says, well, the Democratic Party brand is bad. Try an independent candidacy, right?
I had a lot of people talking to me about that, and I kept telling them that, no, look, things are so tribal these days that at the end of the day, people are going to vote for Republican or a Democrat regardless. So, look, I think, Steve Garvey is a baseball hero to a lot of people. I think he's a great guy.
A lot of people my age and older, though.
Yeah,
that's kind of the problem.
Who vote?
That's true. They do vote, as somebody pointed out. Yeah.
But, at the same time, whether that translates into something you can mount a campaign, I think is to be seen.
It is a #2 state, though, and the Republican primary will be on that day, which means there will be the highest Republican turnout. And so the chances of him making it to the top 2 are not going to be.
I think
he'll be
he's
in the top
very
2.
likely in the top 2.
Yeah.
By the way, the other interesting thing, Adam Schiff voted for the debt ceiling.
Yeah.
The other two in the Democratic primary, Porter and Lee, did not.
Wow.
Wonder if that's going to be an ads.
Yeah, you would think so. It's going to pop up at least once or twice or 4 or 10 times during the process.
From both angles. Anyway, California politics is going to be a lot of fun. May not matter to the presidential race, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Eugene, Doug, and Sarah, great to see you guys.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.